2028 elections I be kono enyina enim say currently there NDC amanyoko no gusu a eye omoboabo omo a omo pese 2028 omo lead NDC amanyoko no for elections no emu fa dodo na no egusu a omoboabo omo a enya asenketo enya ni say NPP amanyoko ndie omo di kan e de omo di akwa akogu a omo yi Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia eye January mu honom 31st January and omuye Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as the flag bearer and a leader for NPP amanyuku no na akoba say ni de ani ni nyina no akogina NDC amanyuku no so amanfo atwen de NDC amanyuku no so beyi no in 2027 a onomo e de ne ba be face Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia na ye nyina ya no ebe wiase de ye behu ba bi asusan e de bode no e ba be fa. Now, so many names, and after say NPP amanyuku no di omo primaries no eko wie no. So many names, and now free NDC amanyuku ne camp. Aba omo chese sa krofo we and 2028 omo bese omo lead NDC amanyuku ne ti ati edin bi ti say Johnson Esiedun Ketia national chairman for NDC amanyuku no. Sa so and Julius Debra Kesel Atoforsen Haruna Idrisu education minister. Any idea who do we bring the woman a mouth for a chese, Muninano, Epese 2028 dear, or Mulidi, a year NDC amanyuku. Now, Kobani say the engine himself. A mouth for who do a more elections, moon, elections, more research. The polls are who do a barber 12. Now, finally, Global Info Analytics, himself over the month, a year from last month, any last 2 months. Omo de NDC amanyuku no post aba beto abontin ema eye me de ho asem bremu saa time no omu chire mu a include nipa 7,000 from NDC amanyuku no na omo de yes post ye delegates best 7,000 and omo de yes post na say de omo step in up akonanim ama omo include delegates for bebre into this poll na this poll no omo chire mu a they say de enya asem ketu akra nipa currently say NDC amanyuku no kwa akoto aba akasisi e obetimi lead NDC amanyuku no omode eho asem aba beto honum any percentage ahodo a empanifu a mebubu omudin nyina no currently omuhuodi in elections nsenkene ne kwa akoto aba na percentage a empanifu ni nyina no ebenya no Global Info Analytics omode eho asem about to honum any regions ahodo a na ye included any region bia no percentage a penny bia nya ye no ni nyina no oma including no e wo post ni.
Hello, good evening. I'm Kwaba Bium about Global Info Analytics, and I think Friday 10th April 2026. It's not about Bium with the NDC race. No, who is NDC? This time around, yani NDC delegates in a dinkita more than 10,000 of them. I think 11,000, 10,000 of them, and I don't dinkita across all the regions. First one, yeah, 5,700. Second one, almost 4,700. But the full report will be out next week. Now, and saying, your fresh delegates on telephone across. Now, the AN say, ya mo ubia edin antre ubi, there be. No, the FN unprompted recall. And no, ye mo ubia edin antre say, sumasi, and air contested. Anyway, they were on high, there be. It bisa almost say, and this back you be original or my name for 2028. Why now? You do swap on better mano. Or more a dean in train near young Casayan taking. A dean the coy, a dorsal, a month of a frame, as must be caught, way back, in Tiffany Dinka, and I compile a dean in a dean bear 26. 26. Na edin say the wine when omodi omodin emaye akwasi opon fosu Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayini, Attorney General, Hannah Tete, former Minister of Trade and a Foreign Minister, Alex Mould, former GMPC, Mahama Yariga, Majority Leader, Agbemeva Lolomavo Eleplim, NDC Eastern Region, Akotia Constituency to be precise, Sylvester Mensah, I think Exim Bank, Kanabi Bisa, yes, Kojo Bonsu, Ghana Ambassador to China, Iwa Daku, former Tema Oil Refinery Boss, Ama Kofi Bua, Minister for Environment, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Guzitano, 24-hour economy, Frank Amakohini, Ashanti Regional Minister, Kobna Donko, former Finance Minister and former Bank of Ghana Governor, Spio Gabra, former Ambassador to the United States and Minister for Communication, Montaka Mubarak, Honorable, current Minister for Interior, Zinato Adman Rollins, MP, Koli Klote, Eric Opoku, Minister for Agric, MP for Mr. Sunafu, Safobi, Professor Joshua Alabi, former UPSC and I think current board chairman, Ghana Commercial Bank, the two are black one, Foreign Minister, Julius Debra, Chief of Staff, Professor Opoku Ajiman, Nana, current Vice President, Haruna Idrisu, Minister for Education, Atufosin, Minister for Finance, and Asidu Nketia, Chairman. So, Edin and Edi call, and this delegate in chair. Maybe some say one on Betuama. Inti Mwaya Mudimaya no next week, Emeboa Muhudia Koso. Very fascinating. Why NA key contenders in the NDC race, top 5. Why Ena Asedin Ketia Edi Vitino hands down. Why Suna Osomwa na
Summary of the national platform for the focus on the NDC primaries, or who will replace John Mahama as the next leader of the NDC. We sampled over 12,000 voters across the length and breadth of this country. And here is a summary of the findings. Now, in the race to represent or to present NDC in the 2020 election, Atufosin now on 32%, Asedin Ketia on 25%, Haruna Idrisu 23%, Jinana 14%, and the others 5%. What has happened between now and the December poll? Now, Atu on 32%. Before he was 23%. He's gone up 9 points from the last poll. Asedin Ketia, on the other hand, was 22%. Now 25%, up 3 points. Haruna Idrisu, on the other hand, was leading the race. In fact, he led the race from the beginning. In the last poll, he was on 26%, and now he drops 23%. Jenana was on 11%, now 14%. And someone else, or the rest of the candidates, were on 18%, now down to 5%. Now, if you say that Jenana doesn't contest, how would that change the dynamics of the race? Atufosin will go to 36%. Asedin Ketia 31%. Haruna 27%. Someone else or others 6%. So you can see that the race is kind of taking shape in terms of the general, from the general voters, not from delegates. Delegates poll will come very late, but for now we are looking at the views of the Ghanaian voters. Now, how are these people performing across the various blocks? For example, in the swing regions, in the Akan regions, the northern regions, and the OT voter. Let's see how the race look like in those areas. In the swing regions, Atu leads 43%. This is Greater Accra, Central, and Western. It's a big margin. And then Asedin Ketia 22%, Haruna Idrisu 18%, Jenana Opoku 12%. In the Akan regions, which is very critical as well, Asedin Ketia is on 27%, Atufosin 43%, Haruna Idrisu 14%, Jenana 10%. Northern regions, Atufosin 11%, Asedin Ketia 17%, Haruna 50%, and then Jenana 18%. In the voter OT, Atu 23%, Haruna 17%, Asedin Ketia 25%, Jenana 27%. She leads. So if you look at this polling data, you can see that The younger candidate, for example, Atu and Haruna, if you put their votes together, they are hitting 50% and above, near 60 in some cases. It's only in the voter region that the combined vote of Asedin Ketia and Vice President exceed 50%. And remember, these are the aged people who are matured, or the older candidates in the NDC. So you can see that the race is looking more like a younger people in NDC from the perspective of voters, not delegates. We haven't put internal delegates out there yet. Now, let's look at the interesting aspect of this as well, in terms of age. All the age groups, Atufosin is leading in all of them, except those who are 65 years and above. In the 65 years and above, they are supporting Jinano Poku and Harun Asedin Ketia, all by 50%. So the older people are backing the older people, but the younger people are spreading their vote between Atufosin and Harun Idrisu significantly. 1824 all the way to 55 to 64. They are all backing the young people by majority. Now, if you look at the educational level, Atu also leads across all the educational level of voters. 41 for junior high, 47 for senior high, 37 for tertiary education, and 30% for people without education. Asedin Ketia, 28% junior high, 24% senior high, 23% tertiary, and 23% low education. And among those, Haruna Idrisu, DHS 16%, senior high 17%, tertiary 25%, and no education 29%. Now let's look at the race again within the party affiliation. Among MPP, surprisingly, MPP people are supporting the candidate that is leading in the NDC, which is getting the backing of all the other party affiliates. MPP for Atufosin is 41%, Asedin Ketia 23%, Haruna Idrisu 22%, and Professor Jinano Poku 12%. Now, NDC Atufosin 39%, Asedin Ketia 26%, Haruna 21%, Poku 13%. Again, if you add the vote of the younger people, it is almost 60% of NDC who are backing young people. When it comes to floating voters, Atufosin 44%, Asedin Ketia 22%, Haruna Idrisu 20%. If you add Atufosin and Haruna Idrisu, you get 64%. Now, you look at the other political parties, again, Haruna 25, Atu 36. And those who say they will not disclose, Atu 43, Haruna 41. So across all the voting party affiliation, it's Atufosin that is leading across. And again, the combined vote of Atufosin and Haruna Idrisu makes up over 60% of the vote. It tells you that this is a Gen Z election, a younger voter election, very likely. As to whether this will reflect in delegates, we can't tell. But for now, this is what the people are claiming. Among the accounts, Atufosin is leading with 53%, Asedin Ketia 25%, Haruna 12%, Jinana 9%. Among the Gandangbe, Atufosin 47%, Asedin Ketia 21%, Haruna 17%, Jinana 12%. Everest, Atufosin 43%, Asedin Ketia 26%, Haruna 16%, Jinana 13%. The Moldagbani, Atufosin 17%, Asedin Ketia 19%, Haruna Idrisu 47%, Jinana 17%. In the non-Moldagbani group, the combined vote of Jinana and Haruna Idrisu is majority. We've seen some kind of backparting between Jinana people and Haruna Idrisu, and also for Atufosin. But here again, still, if you add Atufosin 17% to Haruna Idrisu 47%, you get 64%. So it's looking like people are torn between Atufosin and Haruna Idrisu, and they are getting most of the vote so far. Now, if you do head-to-head, Haruna versus Atufosin, Haruna is 42%, Atufosin 58%. Very solid lead for Atufosin there. If it's Atufosin against Asedin Ketia, Atufosin is 59%, Asedin Ketia 41%. Solid lead. When you do Atufosin versus Jinana Poku, Atufosin is 70%, Jinana 30%. Now, if you do Haruna Idrisu and Asedin Ketia, Haruna Idrisu 50%, Asedin Ketia 50%. A dead hit in the Asedin Ketia Haruna Idrisu list. Now, if you do Haruna Idrisu and Jinana Poku, Haruna Idrisu 65%, Jinana 35%. Solid lead for Haruna Idrisu. And then again, if you do Asedin Ketia versus Professor Poku 40%, Asedu 60%. This clearly shows that Jinana Opoku may not be a formidable force in this race, the current vice president. Numbers kind of losing against every candidate that is in the front running. So we believe that I think the reality will still set in. It's very unlikely she will get the support that she did, not from the public so far. I think that's a growing realizing that this election is for younger people. Now, what I want us to look briefly is in the race between Asedin Kitia and Haruna Bisu. How are Haruna people behaving? Who is Haruna people voting for?
Because okay na say na say mu de yenim say mu de mo ka enne na ye kyena mo ka ya mbada no ma no sesi mo ka ya mbada no ma no sesi aden na ba akofo aya gu asole ne sa am Assemblies of God say nipa ja na nipa pastor papa bi ko oh chale sesi aden ye easy o ko Assemblies of God now nam kroma e fere mpo so be ka say o ko Assemblies of God de nipa ba ko atimi agu asole no nipa ba ko ni tumi ne president of Pentro tumi agu asole no isa na mkona ka so o bra o pa cho ko da asole me ko Assemblies of God some of them mon kan okore mo kan sempe no ma da no ano mo kan sempe no ma da no ano mo kan sempe no ma da no ano aden isa Assemblies of God asole ti si ade o feri o unam kroma akola ketekete to bisa o bra mpa cho ko da asole Assemblies of God no asole no osere da de o se o some de mon kan okore Assemblies of God is among can okore mo de among kan okore is aya fini wo krom into ukwa Assemblies of God, how fell so because of Assemblies of God. Because okay, na say mu de yenim say mu de mo ka enne na ye kyena mo ka ya mbada no ma no sesi mo ka ya mbada no ma no sesi aden na ba akofo aya gu asole ne sa am Assemblies of God say nipa ja na nipa pastor papa bi ko
obesim e dia seat of government a kyerɛ mampene